You ready? You ready for this? You're the snitch. Why didn't you just call it You're the bitch?
Oh, what? What?
Hey, Liam. This ain't your mama's album of the year intro. Liam, just stop this bit. Like, it's nearly February already. Folk have been waiting for this album of the year list for ages now. Just get on with it. Quit it. Just get on with it. Yeah. You're right. Hi and welcome. I'm Liam, the music reviewer, and today we're finally going to be doing the long-awaited, the almost end of last season list, the top 50 albums of 2018. There's no real rules here, just one album per artist. I've got a few honourable mentions that I just want to quickly go down. So Screaming Females, All at Once, Antarctical Vespucci, In the Time of Email, Seiko Mori, Party, Christine the Queen's Chris, Robin Honey, Xavier Stone First, Kai Winston with Kai Winston Bitch, and Beach House 7 all sadly didn't make the list. I think they're all good, which is why they're obviously honourable mentions, but for one reason or another, they just didn't quite break into the top 50 for me. So without further ado, let's go into the top 50, starting off with the Hers Collective, Friends, Lovers, Favourites. I should have also mentioned that I'll just kind of quickly go through the first 25 or so every so often. I'll say a little bit here, and when we get into the top 25 I'll go into more detail. 49, Courtney Barnett, Tell Me How You Really Feel. I was really into this album when it first came out, and I still think it's pretty good, though I have went off it just a little bit. 48, got Lena Raine with the Celeste soundtrack. I finally got this game on Switch. It is phenomenal, might just be my favourite game of the year, and the soundtrack just does wonders to kind of like amp the quality of it up. Just it's aptly ambient when it needs to be, just surging you with energy and whatnot. It does just that. At 47 we've got Ariana Grande with Sweetener. Now this one grew on me quite a fair bit. I think I gave it a 6 when it came out. I've just been listening to it a lot frequently, and it's just boomed up. Just so many good pop songs on here, just astounds me. At 46 we've got Rollo Tomasi with Time Will Die and Love Will Bury It. At 45 got Unknown Mortal Orchestra with Sex and Food. 44 we've got MGMT with Little Dark Age, the best album they've put out in ages, might just be their best album. The moody electro synth pop feel to it just works in their favour so much, and it's very funny at points as well, which I wasn't expecting at all. Usually I would have thought that would have been quite corny, but no, they do it quite well. Cloud Nothings with Last Building Burning at 43. At 42 we've got Arctic Monkeys, Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino. I will probably be the only person on YouTube to put this on their list, but I think it's pretty damn nice. I think it's one of their strongest albums to date. It's got such a strong personality, the humour to it, the wit is nowhere near as grating as it was on AM, and just the style of it all I just think works remarkably in Arctic Monkeys' favour. And at 41 we've got Daughters with You Won't Get What You Want. At 40 we've got Ichiko Ayoba with QP. This is just the album that whenever it's been a sunny day recently over the past week or so, and it's just not often in Scotland, but when it's been that sort of like mood for that environment, I've put it on, and it just so relaxing, so soothing. I have no idea what she's saying, and I want to actually get around to like having to listen along with the lyrics, but just the delivery alone is just breathtaking. Such a lovely album. 39 we've got Frank Ocean's Endless. Some people might not think this would count for this sort of list at all, but I think that it's the perfect sort of like little gateway from Channel Orange to Blonde, though there isn't very many remnants of Channel Orange. It just feels quite different to Blonde in some ways, while also having like a obvious connection to it. So I would thoroughly recommend people seek out and get it. It just got a vinyl release in 2018, but I found it via a totally legal download online. At 38 got Denzel Curry with Taboo. A lot of people seem to be kind of let down by this, but I wasn't really super invested in Denzel Curry until 2018. Even the first kind of few songs I like, Black Balloons, I thought were kind of just they've grown on me so much with repeated listens, so would feel bad for not including this list, especially with just the personality, the character of Denzel Curry. It's just something that cannot be understated. At 37 we've got Black Dresses with Waste Isolation. At 36 we've got The Voids with Virtue. I'm so glad that they're going in this direction where it feels like so incomparable to The Strokes, where it feels solely Julian Casablancas' like own project. And yeah, some of these songs on here are just absolutely phenomenal, especially Curious and Primitive Bones, which both just sort of blow me away every time. At 35 got Jean Grey and Quell Chris with Everything's Fine, super conscious album that also has a bit of comedy in its bones, but the skits work really well, doesn't feel like it's slowing down the pace at all. Hannibal Buress is also in this, which is pretty damn cool. He puts a good little verse in. 34 got Serpent with Feet with Soil, super soulful album, so full of intimacy and lovely imagery, and his voice, man, I could listen to it on loop, just such a phenomenal release. At 33 we've got Kids See Ghosts with their self-titled release, one of the albums I put down in my most anticipated list last year, and I was right, because I always am. Well, I don't think it's the best thing that Kanye's ever put out. I do think it has some phenomenal sampling. Kid Cudi, I think Kid Cudi's like the main appeal here for me. He's so confessional, puts in such a great performance time and time again, and even some of the guest features are actually pretty damn nice too. 32 we've got Park Ji-ha with Communion, again another album that technically came out in 2016, but it got like a more kind of worldwide release and whatnot in 2018. Just super nice avant-garde jazz instrumentation that just leaves me floored every time. And then at 31 we've got Soccer Mummy with Clean. I'm glad that Brett Kane of the Noise Pond put this on his list, because I thought I'd be the only person to, because everyone seems to listen to it and just think it's pitchfork fodder, but I think it's super sincere. I think there's always like one little bit of each song, like whether it be the instrumentation or a certain lyric, that just shines out and just has me like hooked to that song for like a set amount of days. It is just one of my favourite singer-songwriter albums of the year. And then at 30 we've got Confidence Man with Confident Music for Confident People. If you were let down by the LCD Sound System album from last year, come around to this. It is like so full of youth and just carefreeness and just sassiness, and just they're totally self-aware, and it works in their favour really well. An album that me and my friends have definitely bonded over a fair bit, and for good reason too. Give it a go if you haven't already. 29 we've got Kali Uchis with Isolation, and then at 28 we've got Hop Along with Bark Your Head Off Dog. Some of the best indie pop music you'll hear all of 2018, the vocals especially, they're beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful. If you listen to it, you know exactly what I mean. Just how bouncy and playful they are. And some of the imagery as well. Just like Somewhere I Judge, it just has me just totally transcended and just under their thumb completely. At 27 we've got Idols with Joy as an Act of Resistance, which people might have expected to be a little bit higher. I think it's better than Brutalism. It's only just like a song here or there that they should have cut. I can't remember the song titles off the top of my head, but the one with the two guys that are at a funeral, like, to be fair, that's quite funny, so I can kind of deal with that. But there's just like a cover on there that I just don't think really does much for me. But besides that, man, oh god, like, this is a great punk album, and I'm glad that there's people from Britain making this sort of music when we need it most, and is presented in a way that even people who aren't so like lefty inclined are kind of, they are sort of seeing the appeal in it, and that's always a good thing. And then at 26 got Ozzy Osbourne with Nervous Hand. This was a hip hop release I wasn't really expecting much from. I found it's very kind of Aesop rock inspired, but not to its detriment. I just think that definitely sort of like the very like bulky and well worded flows are all there, but I do think that some of these songs are unlike a lot of what I've heard in 2018, and I don't think it's been getting as much attention as it should have been, though I have seen people like Not Real Music's Ryan. I think Mike Seatown also did a review of it, so I'm glad that it's definitely picking up some pace, because that's how I found out about it, and hopefully I can help that ripple kind of keep going along. So here we are in the top 25, and starting the top 25 got Puce Mary with The Drought. This is unsettling to just a terrifying degree. The song Dissolve is just like low-key nightmare feel. It feels like you've woke up and you're like at some giant's feast, and you're like stuck to like a drumstick or something. They just took a big bite and they're crunching you down, and they're like, well, dissolving you into like their digestive tract. How Puce Mary managed that, like how to like capture that feel, or even just kind of like plant that imagery in my head, like it gives me the fear. But just every little sound effect just feels like it's been like submerged in like the appropriate like nightmare feel. It kind of like almost feels like a Cthulhu type fear, where just like this otherworldliness, like this thing that just makes you feel like an absolute little speck of dust. It's if you listen to this album, do so with the lights off, but make sure you've got something comforting nearby you. And at 24, I've got Silver in the Queue with Apologies in Advance. I expect this to be a fairly dire self-help record, but it just far exceeds my expectations. The concept of like a self-help group for artists feels pretty unique. I haven't really seen it done anywhere else. It touches on like topics like perfectionism, how upbringing can define both your art and yourself, and just how can you be flawless? Is it even possible to be flawless? Can just like the actual detriment to actually seeking that out all the time. I just, at points it was getting a bit too real for me, and just, yes, and even then, like, even without that in mind, there's just songs like Product of My Environment that just sort of just have like such a sort of just energy and passion like driving them, that even if you don't really feel like this concept's too real for you, you'll still get something out of it. There was nothing really like this in 2018, and even if there was other albums that deal with like depression and all this other stuff, and this ends with an uplifting conclusion, which was very needed in a year like 2018. 23, we've got Jeff Rosenstock with Post. Obviously everyone was hyping this up because it was the first kind of big album of 2018, and it was also the follow-up to what I believe is one of the decade's best albums, That's Worry. And while I don't think it kind of like reaches those heights just as much, I think that like just that inherent pop punk energy is still just as fascinating as it always has been with Jeff's music. And with this songwriting, I feel like he's really trying to push himself a bit more, which is very welcomed, especially with the opener USA that just gets things off to like an awe-inspiring degree, and just what he has to say about society and politics at large feels in a way that it will kind of stand the test of time. It doesn't have to be kind of like solely in our current time period. And at 22, we've got Parquet Court with Wide Awake, and this is perhaps probably the most surprising album of 2018 for a lot of people, including myself. I expect it to just be like a good time because I have enjoyed their music in the past, but this was just like, lo and behold, like, listen to this album, see what it has managed. I don't think anyone was expecting this to be just as great as it actually was, but I don't think any of us are complaining. Just the performances are charming, like almost bursting at the seams with a sense of like joy and cynicism, and just most importantly that vigor. Just that alone makes it worth checking out. But the lyrics are just like the perfect like companion to that all, especially the title track, like, which is just like a big kind of laughing at like being so woke that like it's having all these like effects on you, and that just always, it's always quite it always gets you going though. Like, it is, like I say, like, you can ignore those lyrics and you'll still manage to get a lot out of this. And Before the Water Gets Too Hot, also to do with like climate change. There's a variety of topics here which makes this feel like an album of its time, but that isn't a bad thing at all, and this may actually work in its favour for a lot of people. And it never feels like you're being condescended, or it never makes you feel like an idiot, which I think is something that's a very thin line that they've managed to kind of just like walk along perfectly. Now we're at 21 with Ice Age Beyondless. I saw these guys live when they played Glasgow, and it just boosted up my appreciation of this album tremendously. And even again, like, it's always hard to like follow up an album that's regarded so highly by critics and just like music listeners alike with Ploughing Into the Field of Love. I think it's obviously easy to compare it to that one just because it's from the same band, but I feel like they incorporate just so much more brass. It just feels so much more varied, and at points it's just more accessible to the extent where it just feels kind of weird to compare the two for me. I thought Painkiller was going to be sort of like a really worrying turn, but it just manages to never lose that mood and just that kind of quirk of what makes Ice Age Ice Age. Like songs like Thieves Like Us, it feels like something like right out of a cowboy flick, and then Plead the Fifth feels like just like the perfect companion to like a Lonely Ranger one as well. And Catch It as well, like I was saying in my songs of the year list, which you haven't watched yet, you should go watch it just now, or after this video is done actually. Just so Nick Cave inspired, and just like a strong contender for the band's best song to date. And then at 20, and then we're into the top 20 with Saba, Care For Me, and this is what I was referring to when I was saying about how there's been some really depressing albums in the hip hop field this year, or 2018, and yeah, this is one that's just fueled by grief, by the trying to like kind of like process it, and trying to like not even so much process it, but how to go on life after somebody you love has gone. And I did see this get compared to I Don't Like Shit, I Don't Go Outside a fair bit because of production, and definitely does have that bleakness, but it's nowhere near as lo-fied, which I think works in its favour, because that despair that's felt both in those production and lyrics just feel more tangible. They just feel like kind of harder to repress, which just like ties into the main thread of this record. Prom King, as everyone's pointed out, is just another highlight, but it can be quite a struggle to listen to as well. So this one isn't one that I've came back to a fair amount, but that's not through like a lack of quality or anything like that. And I just really hope that Saba managed to find some sort of peace or comfort in having made this. At 19, we've got Pusha by At 19, we've got Daytona by Pusha T. I had this on my anticipated albums list, and I was damn right, because it is just fantastic. I think it's even better than I thought it was going to be. I was surprised and taken aback by Kanye's production on here. The sampling on like the Gains We Play is just, that sample is just like transformed to the point where it's unrecognisable. And just every time I hear it, it just like gives me chills by how fantastic it sounds. People have complained that Pusha kind of like just keeps singing or rapping about the same stuff all the time, and I kind of get that complaint, but this album's that short and succinct, and the production as well as his delivery is just so kind of, I don't want to say varied, but always just so fascinating that it was never really a gripe for me. And I'm totally on board with this whole this praise of it being one of the better hip hop albums of the year. And speaking of good hip hop albums, at 18 we've got Iridescence by Brockhampton. Who would have thought, after just the remarkable year this boy band had in 2017, and then just the kind of tragedy that they were facing earlier on this year, they were scared that it was all going to crumble around them, that they would end up making their best album so far. Yeah, I said it, it's their best album. Don't at me, the sound binge. Don't at me. This is a hell of a moment to die on, because they've never had this much chemistry before. And with Saturation Free, it just felt like they were kind of it felt like whenever they were reaching those moments of greatness, they were just brought down by some lackluster contributions. I'm gonna say Amir's just in the first album was fine, but it just always seemed to be rapping about the same stuff, and his delivery never changed. Like Pusha T always seems to be sort of like constantly impressing you. Amir just wasn't, and it really made him stick out like a sore thumb. So now that he's gone, and for good reason too, just has allowed members like Bareface, Yoba, Merlin and Dom to just kind of show their worth, and more often than not they kind of just like steal the spotlight completely. Not to say that other members, especially Kevin, who has like, an incredible verse on Weight, not to say that no one else stands out, but these four are just getting so much time to just, or like even so much more space to show that like they deserved this praise long ago. I went back to Saturation Trilogy, and I just feel like they were just really underutilised. No more. They cannot be ignored anymore. The production as well, just so interesting. And even when things are more reserved and well tempered, like on Tonya, it's no less stunning. This is probably, I think this is my most played album of 2018, and for good reason too. For good bloody reason. They're on to 17 with the Beths, Future Me Hates Me. This is just like a really fucking good power pop record. It's probably the best one I've heard since like Weezer's White Album, which might make folk kind of like roll their eyes a bit. But I think what makes me like it so much, not just the instrumentation, performances, it just constantly just seem to be like impressing you, even if you kind of think, oh, they're going to do the same thing again. They just don't. They just manage to just keep you enthralled every time. But I think just how they manage to capture these kind of like struggles, whether it be millennial ones or just kind of like timeless ones as well, when it comes to like relationships and like letting down your boundaries and just acting like, well, knowing the consequences of what's going to happen, just knowing that yeah, this might happen, but I'm doing this because at this point it feels like the right decision. Just the way they word it as well, just got this like certain appeal to it, that when you just mix it all in together, it just goes down a treat. So again, one that definitely deserves a bit more love from the general music community. At 16 we've got Death Threats with Year of the Snitch. I think that regardless of your opinion on this record, it's fair to say that this is kind of like their most varied album, and in many ways that's what makes it kind of like such a joy. And it follows up Bottomless Pit, which is a great album as well, but it kind of felt more like Money Store 2.0, and again, not that it was a bad thing, but that's just kind of like how it was. Here it just feels like with songs like Flies and Black Paint, Death Grips is Online, The Fear, Ha Ha Ha, these are songs that either feel wholly new or such big leaps forward for the band that they just feel like the start of a new era for the band. I'm more than happy to see them kind of go down this route where they're trying so much stuff, because it is just them throwing stuff at the wall, but of course they probably just cover it in like fucking sickly fluids and that to make sure it sticks, because it always manages to every time. I would have thought at this point that releasing music on an annual basis would result in a drought of quality, but that's not the case at all. Number 15 we've got Farrah Misty's God's Favourite Customer. I haven't seen this on nearly enough lists, and I'm fine with having it on here if I'm going to be like one of the few people that has it on their list, because I think that this is really, it stands strong amongst the rest of his catalogue. The fact that like he's taken away the scope and that ambition of pure comedy might inherently sound like a bad move, but for me, just being like a bit more sort of like kind of more introspective. There's no, it's obviously mostly aimed at Florida Mystic, and he's using that wit against himself. He hasn't just because it's against him now. He's not going to like pull those punches back or anything like that. And some songs, especially with Please Don't Die, which is linked to like a larger thing about his relationship with his wife, and that song's just utterly devastating. But there's also songs like Mr. Tillman where like that kind of the general chat and that is presented in a bit more of a funny way, even if like the whole like threads that are running throughout it are still there and they're still being touched upon, which makes it feel like it could have easily become quite a shallow listen or that, but it's not the case at all. It's probably my second favourite Florida Misty album, so take that as you will. And at 14 we've got Ski Mask with Compro. I'll say this time and time again to the point where it's pretty much a catchphrase. I'm not the best at talking about electronic music, and I really want to kind of improve that over the coming year. But it just feels like every component on this album just like it's just polished to a T. Not to say that it's like there's no kind of like grit or anything that like sounds off to like a good point. Like I feel like whenever you're listening to a song, Ski just feels like a new time is just like they're just like kind of like just refining stuff and just making sure that it's adaptable to whatever the situation calls for. It's just one of these albums that I came back to quite a bit this year whenever I've been doing any sort of tasks or that just kind of they just kind of like get me like in a trance and just get me like I'm just working without even knowing it. And the whole album cover for this is just like it's like a really like a snowy vista and all that, and I can get that, you get that feel just from listening to the music where it just feels like, yeah, that is the perfect cover for this sort of experience. At 13 we've got Kira Bonito with Time and Place. Who would have fucking guessed it, am I right? But a lot of people have been saying how this album kind of sees the band kind of like pull the rug from underneath your feet. But I always thought that Bonito Generation, like while it has this like sugary sweet demeanour and it's definitely a very like lovely time, I have always thought that like there was like a little bit of like maybe not so much negativity but cynicism that the band sort of like believed in, and this is just the album where like they've put that just kind of like at the face of the project. Obviously Only Acted and Rest Stop are unlike anything the band have put out before. These noise rock, terrifying, monstrous songs that just, especially Rest Stop, I always like finish the album just kind of like the first time I listened to this at midnight I was just like, what the fuck, this feels like it's from a different album, but it somehow still works. It's just kind of like all these fears and whatnot just kind of like coalescing into this sort of like monstrous creature and that. But the gorgeous moments on here just stand out as some of the band's best as well. Time Today and Make Believe just sound so delicate and carefree, which immediately contradicts just how worrisome that Sarah is on there, whose vocals just are as charming as ever. So yeah, I don't really have anything else to say about this album because I've definitely talked about this to death. But yeah, this was a successor that was just as good as its predecessor for me. And at number 12 we've got Adrian Linker with Hibiscus. Adrian Linker's from Big Thief, who I haven't really checked out all that much, but when I listened to this album I was just taken aback. It's just got so much strength which might make you feel like it's just like some sort of like kaiju size, like a monster or something like that. But it's impressively laid back singer-songwriter album that just more often than not left me with my jaw like wide open, just at how it managed to impress me and shake me. The playing on here alone with the plucking and often intricate chords would totally win me over if this was like a purely instrumental album, but both Adrian's singing which just commands your attention and her lyrics make it the gem that it is. I've already talked about Blue and Red Horses to death at this point, but Terminal Paradise is another one that I'd want to bring up, where just like the holding of certain notes and the echoing tie in to how Adrian's just struggling to let go of this person after they've passed, which I just found like a really smart touch. Definitely an album that I think more people should check out because, well, I just think it deserves it. Why else would it be on this list? And at number 11 we've got Let's Eat Grandma with I'm All Ears. This is just another album that I wasn't expecting much from, mainly because when I listened to their previous album, Gemini, was it? I just didn't really, there wasn't really much memorable moments on it that maybe kind of like remember the act as a whole. But yeah, I'm kicking myself now because they've just shown themselves, probably made themselves proud, but most importantly, have shown other people just how talented they really are. And for a synth pop duo to produce like music of this caliber to this quality, just in general, but also this early in their career is just really noteworthy. And there's like some obvious ones that we can kind of bring up. There's the Sophie produced Hot Pink. It's Not Just Me, and just the otherworldly, extraordinary Fallen to Me, which could go very well. It could very well go down as just one of the best songs of the genre once enough time has passed for that to kind of like be brought up in discussion. Just from a technical standpoint, it's really impressive. But I do think that they managed to bring a lot of insight and maturity that's unlike most bands of its ilk. Again, least of all from like two of the youngest providers of this sort of music, especially Hot Pink that I've brought up, with like its exploration and critique of gender norms being thrown on individuals, which is kind of like in turn hypocritical to like freedom of expression that we're promised. I wasn't expecting all of that from this sophomore record, but I'm damn glad that happened to be the case. Top 10 time, Mark Kozelek, self-titled at number 10. This is definitely more in sync with Common as Light or Red Valleys of Blood, which was the last Sun Kil Moon record was the last Sun Kil Moon record from 2017. This is just a bulky boy, but it manages to kind of touch on a lot of, not a lot of the same topics, but build upon the same topics that were explored on Benji. And this just seems like a midlife crisis album, and that's what I say, like, oh, that makes it so bad. It feels like this was just kind of brought up just because of that. It feels like Mark was full of fear about what was going to happen to him. There's points in here where like he's talking about like a deteriorating state of health, about how people treat him, how he treats other people, just implications of all of that was incredibly powerful, and the instrumentation as well is often just beautiful, really beautiful, especially on a track that I've already talked about to death already. My love for you is undying, which just kind of loops about, has these like little moments where like between the transitions that like really shine in that as well. And the closing track, I Cried During Wall Street, just kind of like expresses this worry about just death in general, which I think is just a really good point to end on. And just Kozelek's commitment to these minimal instrumentals and looping just really pays off. It's just and his warm, calming vocals as well. Just it's impossible for that grip to be kind of like for you to break that grip at all. Definitely an album that I know a lot of people didn't like that much, but for me, I think what Mark was aiming for definitely kind of occurred for me. And then at number 9 we've got Eve Tumor with Safe in the Hands of Love. This one just, it could very well maybe a messy album for some people. The fact that a song like Noid, which I think is accessible to a point where I would expect to see it like in a sport game menu, and that coexists on the same track list as a post-industrial nightmare that is Hope and Suffering, it's just mind-boggling. But the volatility that this album has is just its absolute charm. It just becomes utterly like mesmerising, hypnotic, and often haunting. And this is without us even getting into the lyrical side of things, where it just seems to mainly be talking about relationships, and it's really melancholic at point, and it doesn't feel like, oh, this is just like one big breakup album. I just think from the perspectives that it explores this love from, like Eating an Orchard, where it just feels so romantic. And then there's other songs, like I say, with like Hope and Suffering and Noid, where it's just a fear. It just feels like you're constantly on edge, and just the fear that this instills in you while you're often like just kind of looking at these like soundscapes and going, holy fuck, this is lovely. Cannot understate that at all. Then at number 8 we've got JPEG Mafia with Veteran. So very early on this year I had this down as like being my album of the year, and it was like probably January, so of course that actually didn't really count for much back then, but it's this high on the list, which obviously counts for something. And this just album feels like you kind of like you discovered like a vinyl like out your back garden, and it came from like a futuristic era, and then you've put it on a player with like the world's worst anti-skate, which might make it sound like it was like a really horrible listen, but it just makes it feel so dirty, but also so kind of ambitious in some way with its production. It's just great industrial hip hop music. I really loved like the old Dirty Bastard sample on Real Fella, just how it loops on at certain points just feels like it's just gonna shatter all the glass in this spaceship and the whole album will just be sucked into the void of space. And this is without even mentioning the fact that Peggy himself is just this unfiltered personality that I just love to hear rap on everything. Just definitely one of the most like characterized rappers around at the moment. In number 7 we've got George Clanton's Slide. I'm just kicking myself for not reviewing this sooner because it just seems so up my street that it may as well just be my next door neighbour. While his like online personality is something more akin to somebody like Karen J. Callanan, in his music there's just such sincerity and heart, and I just think this can make Slide more emotional than anything. But the main reason I keep returning to this album is just that how well crafted these songs are. They've just been organised in a way that's just like absolute ear candy. It just feels like often like you're just gonna like OD on this sugary goodness. The title song is pretty much like a masterpiece in my books, just constantly progressing and providing just so much like dopamine. And having even like mentioned George's singing as well, it just works so well. The production he's weaving, just so much like authenticity and genuineness, and just he's just pushing himself, and his pipes are just like so smooth that you could like read out your takeaway order and you would thank him for it. So yeah, this is one that I found very late into the year, and I'm so glad that I did, because it really did take me by surprise. And at number 6 we've got Be the Cowboy by Mitski, an album that I've seen a lot of people say is overrated, but for me totally deserves all the praise it is getting. Like there is also the complaint that the songs are too short, but that's never irked me. Every song, like its intended use and impact, just is completely there. It doesn't feel like it's being like there's nothing that's holding it back at all. Just the sheer number of like great tunes on here, just it sounds to me like if you need a depressing yet ridiculously upbeat like disco track, then nobody has you covered. If you're wanting one of the best openers of not only 2018 but the decade, then Geyser is here as well. And then like an emotionally devastating closer that ties up the whole narrative and relationship between the artist and listener, being like but like the possibility of you and your music just like never being remembered, and how like people can say like, oh, you have this impact on people, but that might not actually be the case, because it might just be that impact dies with somebody. Like I just found that really fucking just dreary, and just I've never really heard it put in a way that Mitski managed to, which makes it like her best album for me. Just bravo. Just I'm struggling to really word it, because it was just an album I've came back to so much this year again, another one of my most played ones. And then at number 5, now we're in the top 5, and we've got Earl Sweatshirt with some rap songs. And we already had an album called Swimming this year, but when it comes to summing up my thoughts on this album, like all I could think about was swimming, about struggling to stay afloat, and like the brief moments of bliss that it can provide. And some rap songs as a brief, bleak, and just absolute masterclass in transparency, production, and lyricism. I always said that his previous material was good, but I did think he could be better as well, and he just absolutely proved me right with this. Just like not so much touching on depression, but just like dropping an anvil on it. Just the dusty lo-fi production that is more often than not like looped, just manages to be so soothing that whenever you come back to it, it never feels like repetitive. It just kind of like it just feels so kind of psychedelic in a way, which I think that's the perfect way to describe it. There's just various points on this album where it just got a bit too claustrophobic for me, just because of the way that like Earl was touching on things and how he was wording it. Like this isn't the place for me to say why that was the case, but yeah, just a really special album as far as I'm concerned. But for my favourite hip hop album of the year, it's got to be Room 25 by No Name. I'm not even going to get into this whole thing about female rappers, because a lot of people seem to think that now they're finally good, when really that's always been the case. It's just getting to that point where you can no longer ignore them, and nor should you. Like No Name just has always been a very impressive rapper, and just on Room 25, like not only like we don't even need to get into this whole spiel about people going, oh, she's the best female rapper. She's just one of the best rappers around right now. There's no question about that. Her demeanour throughout this, like whenever she just talks about stuff, there's just such a draw to it when she talks about, like, maybe when she's talking about just like these social issues like throughout history and contemporary as well, like black exploitation, and when she's talking about like deeply personal worries like on Don't Forget About Me, and when she's talking about being like intimate with people, it always just, I think everything she says always has this urgency to it that's just pure beauty, that kind of like can either be like a beauty to the extent where you're just kind of like, wow, this is lovely, and another kind of beauty where it's like you just feel so full of kind of just, you feel hollow just by like listening to it, because you just think to yourself, you wish you could do something, because when you hear somebody talk about it in a way that No Name manages to, and how she just words herself, she's just incredibly well worded. Just no one can really word themselves as well and deliver themselves as well as No Name at the moment. It's just, she's brimming with confidence on here. So people can no longer ignore her, and just her importance right now is astronomical. Just a strong feat, considering the fact that this just came from one room. So, top three time, and number 3 we've got Oil of Every Pearl's Uninside by Sophie. There's just nobody making music like her just now, is there? Just, there's not. That's the simple facts of it. You'd think with all these like artificial robotic sounds that you'd just be left with a album that just feels like there's not much like heart or soul to it. But just the way she presents these rubbery metallic sounds, and just kind of just the way she's presenting them, just for some reason, like some, must be witchcraft or something like that, or maybe just because she's really talented. You can decide which one that is, but it just feels so just authentic, genuine, utterly infectious. It just has you fall in love with her music. And I mentioned in the best song of the year list, which you should watch after this video. I've already said that already. I'm just trying to plug that damn hard. But the production is the main focus on here, and should be treated as such, because that's definitely where it shines most. But I think with songs like It's Okay to Cry and Immaterial, it just touches on topics like identity that absolutely deserve to be applauded and praised because of how well they go about doing it, and how it never sacrifices just how impressive like the soundscapes that surround it are. And it may be premature for me to say this, but I just think that Sophie is just going to change pop and electronic music for the better, just in a really big way. And I wish her all the best to make that a reality, because with an album like this, I don't think that I'm in the wrong for assuming so. So I gave 2 10 out of 10s this year, so I'm sure most of you are probably guessing which one's it going to be. So I'll give you 5 seconds to say out loud what one you think it is. So at number 2, we've got Twin Fantasy by Car Seat Headrest. Now, remakes are usually shite, or they're usually good, but they're usually good because they do something unlike what the original did. And so for a remake that actually kind of like is doing what the original did, but just kind of upping it a bit, for it to be as good as Twin Fantasy is just, it's just unreal, because the 2011 original is so like lo-fi to its detriment, I would say. I think it really undercuts the impact it's meant to have. It's much more polished here, and it just improves on everything, just everything imaginable. Everything that could have been good or is good on the original is just even better here. I just think I think the main thing for me, other than just like how as an indie rock album, just how it progresses, how it makes like 10-12 minute long songs feel like they're going by like that, like they just go by so fast, how they're just the stages to them and that, and how they just constantly keep you just totally kind of like under its thumb, just absolutely under its attention. It's just, I can't even process it. But just the whole narrative about like relationships, this is definitely one that kind of talks about Will Toledo's sexuality, and I just think the way he words himself is just, I don't know, it's like it's poetry at points. There's points where like he's just being kind of silly and goofy and just being like a big fucking geek and that, and I love those moments as well. Just how all this sort of like culminates, where every single aspect of it is just so great. Like Twin Fantasy, like the OG one anyway, goes down as being like a classic and that, and I've never really saw why that was the case. I get it with the context of it being like something that was pretty much pushed and made popular because of like internet forum boards and that, but with this remake, like everything is better, and I just think that Will Toledo and Co were definitely in the right to like come back and remake it. And as much as people were probably worried that was the case, just every song is wonderful. The samples and the like little kind of like monologues at the end of certain songs, like Nervous Young and Humans. I just when they come on, like I don't want to skip them. I know some people they're probably just like I don't care about this. Like I've listened to Nervous Young and Humans like 35 times probably at this point, and I still don't skip it because just what it has to say about like just the album as a whole about like your mental health, like being worried about being productive or not. Just I just don't know. Leaves me utterly speechless. Yeah, just you can see why I gave this a 10 because it's just leaving me just so kind of shook. But yeah, there's my number 2, which means, well, you know what the number 1's going to be. Album of the year 2018 is Cocoa Sugar by Young Fathers. This album is overwhelming. When it comes to album of the year winners from like 2016 and 2017, it took me a while to come around to those ones, like maybe even just like my second listen, it took me a while to come around to them. When it came to my very first listen of Cocoa Sugar, I just knew that it was made for me. Not literally, obviously, but I just knew that from like every little component, every little creaky string, every inflection, every lyric, down to like a bloody letter, I just knew it was perfect to me. The flow in this album is ridiculously good. It honestly just baffles me, it perplexes me that it's only 36 minutes long, because when I listen to it, it just feels like time flies by. It feels like time just doesn't exist, and that makes it sound like totally hyperbolic to you, but it just leaves me totally just... I put the album on, it finishes, I'm just like, nothing else mattered when I was listening to that album, and I guess that's kind of like when you know you're like listening to just an absolute masterpiece. It takes the gorgeous, somewhat polished, like lo-fi production of White Men Are Black Men Too, and just builds on it, incorporates some gospel, hip hop, R&B, pop, just hell, even some dance music at some point, and it's this all-encompassing beast that absolutely like obliterates any fears you may have had that it would fall flat in any of these regards. There's so many of these remarkable moments, not just songs which are all great, but just like literal moments that are better than most albums to me, like the oh god transition from Fee-Fi into In My View, like the feedback of In My View that just gives this song like a better sense of rhythm and levity that most tracks attempt, like with their whole damn composition. The cryptic natures of the lyrics as well, man. Like you could listen to this album numerous times and not even pick up on them. You could not even pay attention to them. You could just like take them on surface level and you would still have a great time. You would still know that it's unlike anything else right now. But when you do actually pay attention, once you actually unravel them and you get these tales of toxic relationships and dynamics in history, socio-political struggles and contemporary hardships are all presented in these gorgeous, chilling ways. Yeah, I've got no qualms saying that this is the best album of the year. I've got no qualms saying this is the best Scottish album I've ever heard in my puff, and this will just certainly go down as one of my favourite albums of all time. So thank you guys for watching this video. It's probably been pretty lengthy at this point, but these are just my thoughts on what I thought was the best music of 2018. So thank you for sticking around, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys very soon. As always, stay safe and stay hydrated.